message is getting out and that we're all here to support it. So I would start just by saying, first and foremost, thank you very much to the Trust for Democratic Education and Accountability for this project, for our partners in the Electoral Commission of Pakistan for coming and the wonderful words you've just said. And we are looking forward in the Canadian government to a very close partnership in working in support of the ECP's goals in this regard. I think we all share the same goal, which is ultimately to see full gender representation in Pakistan's political process and political life as soon as possible. And I say that because there's a long and uphill battle, I think, here in Pakistan, and there is a long and uphill battle across the world as we are looking to ensure that women are able to take their rightful place as a full partner in the political process, representative of the globally 52% of the population that is female. We just had last fall a federal election in Canada, and we like to congratulate ourselves in Canada for women's political participation, but frankly we're not there yet. We had the results of this campaign in our federal government, very much like yours. We are a bicameral system. We have a lower house which is fully elected, like the Legislative Assembly here in Pakistan. We had less than 1/3 of our members who are women, 98 of 338 seats. So, we haven't got there yet. I think the Nordic countries are beating Canada in this respect. But it was better than in our last federal election in 2015. We upped the number of women in directly elected seats by 10. That's 3% of the overall population. All parties ran female candidates in not every riding, but in across a geographic representation. The Liberal Party, which won our federal election, had 33% of their seats that are now held by women, whereas our official opposition, the Conservatives, only 18%. So maybe that's why they're the official opposition and not in government. It's particularly interesting, and I think that this project and some of the other activities that Canada will be supporting here in Pakistan are really going to start to address why is it that we don't have full participation of women, both in the support for electoral systems, as candidates themselves, in party structures, and at every level, from district to provincial to federal. And we've done some work on this effect in Canada as well, and I know that a lot of work has been done here. I'm particularly impressed by this project, the degree to which it builds on a body of research on evidence-based decision-making and evidence-based policy planning to try and address its objectives. But in Canada, when we've looked at it, we've looked first and foremost at one of the reasons that women in direct elections don't get elected is because there's an incumbent advantage. So the fact that men are already in seats in many of these ridings means that there's not the space for women to come and to participate. We often find that women are presented as candidates in less winnable seats. And that's actually, it's an ongoing issue. As parties look to see, all right, where do we think we're going to win? Where do we want to put our highest profile candidates? And where do we just want to make sure that we're represented? The candidates that are new to the political process, and in often case that's women, that's often minorities or others, get sort of slotted in to say, okay, well you fill the ticket. Now, we really have to put our efforts collectively across the political spectrum into supporting some of those candidates as well. And in particular, we find in today's world where we have a new media landscape, and I look at my colleagues, all these cameras across the back, the new media landscape of social media, where it is so easy for people to hide behind anonymity in criticizing candidates, in expressing political views, and frankly expressing very unacceptable views in this instance. That's often disproportionately directed at women candidates or minority candidates. It makes the politics a very unattractive landscape to actually put your name forward. We found this in Canada. We had an episode, we had a very effective climate minister for climate change in our last parliament, who happened to be, well, she's not that young, she's probably my age, but relatively young looking, a very attractive woman. She got labeled a climate Barbie when she was out and speaking, which was immediately dismissive of her views and her ability to influence the political process. And it got even worse from there. And I know we find, because I spend a fair amount of my time, fortunately or unfortunately, in social media here in Pakistan, the vitriol, the really difficult commentary that's directed at women that speak up and have a voice and that may try and forward sometimes unpopular opinions and try and create space in the political landscape. There's a disproportionate amount of really negative attention to them as there would be perhaps for their male colleagues. So I think it's incumbent on all of us in this room to help address that, to call out this type of behavior when it arises, and to make sure that those people, women and men, who are brave enough to stand up in the political process and express their views are supported, even when we may not support those views themselves. But the other particular piece, and I know a part of this project will address that, and some of our other efforts when we're looking at gender empowerment and changing the landscape to create space for women, is really addressing basic societal attitudes. Women need to participate in politics for the benefit of all society, which means we need to give them time and space to do so. Women in Pakistan, and frankly women around the world, even in Canada, bear a disproportionate amount of responsibility for household labor. They bear a disproportionate amount of responsibility for the care of children and elderly parents. And so if you are in a political party and you're trying to consider who are we going to put forward for election, or who are we going to appoint to a party leadership position or to have in a district council, we say, well, you know, we would love to have women candidates, but perhaps they don't have the time or space to be able to do so. In Pakistan, like in Canada, this is a very large and geographically diverse country with significant transport-related issues. We have in Canada, and you have here in Pakistan, participation requirements for your members of Legislative Assembly. They have to be in Parliament for a certain number of days per year. If it's challenging for a woman to leave her home, to leave children or parents or other parts of the household for which she's responsible, that means she's already at a disadvantage for being part of that political system. So these types of issues we have to understand and address. At the same time, that's fundamentally part of this project, which is creating space, changing attitudes to make it acceptable for women to participate. So I'm really encouraged by the work that I've seen so far in the development of this project. I'm even more excited to see how it is going to bear out in practice and with real impact on the ground. And I know that the partnership that's been created between our wonderful implementing agencies, with the Electoral Commission, with the other organizations that Canada is working with, will see a real change over the course of the next years in the participation of women in politics here in Pakistan. And then maybe Pakistan can lead the way, and we're looking at the rest of the Islamic world, the rest of this region, and frankly, even lessons for Canada itself. So thank you very much. I welcome this work. I'm looking forward to following it as it happens, and I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wendy. In the end, I would like all of We Are Leaders project team to please come on the stage. Mr. Shahid Vyas is